Good evening and welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals hearing. Let me introduce some members of town government that assist this board. To my left is Martin Simon, Assistant Town Attorney. To his left is Blaise Donadio, Planner in the Planning Department. You are all here tonight seeking relief from the Smithtown zoning ordinances, and it's our job to try to help you achieve the relief you are requesting whenever possible. It's up to you to provide us with precise, accurate information so we as a board can make a decision based on the facts that you present here tonight. We as a board must consider the 5 following conditions, and they're listed here for you. Number 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. Number 2, whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other means. Number 3, whether the variance is substantial. 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. Procedures for tonight's meeting. Cases will be called in the order they are advertised. When you are called, please present your certificates of postings or mailings to Mr. Donadio. Then you will be asked to go to the podium where you'll state your name and address for the record, and then proceed to tell us why you need your variance. At the end of your presentation, if anyone in the audience would like to speak on your case, they will be given one opportunity to do so. Then the applicant can come back to the podium to answer their concerns. Once the public hearing is closed, no further information will be accepted concerning the case. There are 3 ways to find out about your case. You can stay after the hearing, but there's no guarantee your case will be acted on tonight. You can call the planning office tomorrow, or you can wait and be notified by mail. We do have one adjournment tonight. That is case number 17872, Cumberland Farms. That has been adjourned to February 27th. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first case on the agenda is number 17870, Michael Stern, 52 Cardinal Lane, Hauppauge, the location of the property, the south side of Cardinal Lane, 466 feet west of Holiday Park Drive. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 35 feet for a proposed 45 square foot portico, reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 50 feet to 47 feet for a proposed 192 square foot first floor addition, increase the maximum rear yard paving from 25 to 39% and side yard paving from 25 to 30%, both existing, decrease the distance from any lot line from 3 feet to 1 foot for an existing pool heater and equipment.
Good evening.
How you doing? This is the property owner, so I'll let him.
Yeah, please,
Yeah,
I need
let
the
him
property
go
owner
first,
first.
and-
Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Michael Stern, 52 Cardinal Lane, Hauppauge, 11788 in New York.
Thank you. Would you like this gentleman to speak on your behalf?
That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you state your name, spell your last name, and give the address for the record, please?
The name's Riccardo Cervini, Cervini. Address is 77 Gaza Boulevard, Farmingdale, New York. Basically, the property owners are planning on renovating their home. They have some minor variances that are required in order for them to complete their project. The excuse me. First item on the list is the proposed 45 square foot portico, which is in the front of the home. I would just like to point out there's an existing portico that's there already. It's got about 37 square foot, 37 foot from the property, from the front to the existing structure. What we're proposing is a 35 foot. It's only a difference of about 2 feet. You know, if the board would approve this minor request, it wouldn't cause any negative impacts to the surrounding neighbors. I'd like to point out on this block there are there's other homes that have similar situations with the porticos in the front. My observation, they seem to be about 4 to 6 feet extending off the front of the home. Did any of the board members drive through the neighborhood?
No.
No? I have some photos. If do you want me to submit some so you can take a look and see the characteristic of the neighborhood? Do you want to see some
If
photos?
you'd like. Thank you.
Yeah, so basically, you know, what they're proposing, it's in character with the neighborhood, so there wouldn't be any negative impacts. So the next item on the list is the rear addition, which is going to be their great room. It's actually replacing an existing sunroom, and the current setback for that room is 46 feet, which was approved by this board January 12th, 1999. And what we're proposing is a 47-foot setback, which is only a difference of about a foot. And, you know, what we're requesting is minor, and it will not cause any negative impacts with the surrounding neighbors. The other part of this application is maintaining certain items. The first item is the rear yard paving, which is located around the pool. It's being increased from 25 to 39%. The second item is the side yard paving, which is the walkway. It's being increased by 25% to 30%. And the last item is the pool heater and the filter, which is decreasing the distance from any lot line from 3 foot to 1 foot. So, I mean, overall, these items that we're requesting is minor. Wouldn't cause any detriment to the surrounding neighbors. Does the board have any questions?
All the paving is done in brick?
Yes, it's
The walkway?
all the walkway. Yeah, it is photos. We submitted photos.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I could submit others if
It's okay.
you're good. Okay.
I just wanted to make sure.
Okay, no
Um,
problem.
Anybody on the board have any questions on this application?
No question.
No,
Planning?
thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Do you have a motion to close this application, please?
So moved. Second.
Moved and second, all in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
The next case on the agenda, number 17871. Ralph and Ellen Severino, 1 Fisher Road, Comac. The location of the property, the southeast corner of Fisher Road and Wicks Road. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard on Wicks Road from 40 feet to 10 feet, decrease the minimum distance to any lot line from 6 feet to 3 feet, and permit a proposed 288-square-foot shed in the required front yard on Wicks Road.
Good evening.
Good evening. Ralph Severino, 1 Fisher Road, Comac, New York, 11725.
Thank you. Are you going to speak?
This is my wife.
Ellen Severino, 1 Fisher Road, Comac, New York.
All right, thank you.
Ellen, E-L-L-E-N.
Okay. Would you like to tell us why you're here?
Yes, I'd like to build a shed in the backyard, which is considered my front yard. I need extra storage. It's not an obstruction to any neighbors. Right behind my fence is Hoyt Farms, and to the left of my house is the backyard of my neighbor.
And it's going to house regular lawnmower equipment?
Sure, yeah, I have extra stuff, and I have nowhere, I need extra storage.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application? Planning?
I have a question. I'm looking at this, is this an official survey here
Yes,
that we have?
yes.
Is the property encroaching over the lot line? Is the
We
swimming
were here already for that, sir.
pool- Okay.
We're in the past, yes, that was already,
You don't have that case number, do we have that
I
case number?
The case is actually
My-
attached to
we have the papers.
application.
It's okay.
Just so the board knows, the previous case granted the applicant to maintain the existing structures in the required front yard, and as you can see by looking at the survey, there is an encroachment onto the town property. Wicks Road, which is actually a paper street, it is not an improved town road. The applicant entered into an easement agreement with the town that the applicant can maintain the structures, I believe, until such time as the property is sold, and then they need to be removed.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone in the audience like to be heard in this application? No? Can I have a motion to close this application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Moved in second, all in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night now.
The next case on the agenda is number 17873, George Waldbusser, 26 Havemeyer Lane, Comac. The location of the property, the south side of Havemeyer Lane, 1,148 feet west of Ruth Boulevard. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum side yard from 12 feet to 8 feet, reduce total side yards from 28 feet to 22 feet, for a proposed 65-square-foot addition.
Good evening.
George Waldbusser, WALDBUSSER, 26 Havemeyer Lane, Comac.
Thank you. And you'd like this gentleman to
Michael
speak on your behalf?
Morbillo, our architect.
Certainly.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We're before you this evening for a small addition on the front of the applicant's property. We're looking to propose, an addition that's going to be on the west side of their kitchen. We don't really, basically what they're looking to do is the house is very limited as far as bathrooms. They're trying to basically add a small powder room to the house and a little bit of a pantry area. It's basically accessible off of the kitchen where they have some plumbing. It's related somewhat to the kitchen uses. They're basically trying to create like a little mud room and a small bathroom and a little pantry closet. They don't really have any other spot to put this because it's related to kitchen activities. We're basically looking to avoid going out into the front yard. I have applied for in the area and gotten variances as little as 8 feet for a small addition like this, where basically it's a one-story, not looking to do 2 stories. It's generally just related to, again, to that kitchen use. Won't be an environmental impact. The request represents about a 33% reduction in the side yard and about a 22% reduction in total side yard. So it's just under being substantial. And it was, they didn't create the size a lot. They have what they have, so they didn't create the matter. So if the board has any questions this time, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Great, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions?
No question.
No, thanks.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard in this application? No? Can I have a motion to close this application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Have a good evening.
You
Thanks.
too.
The next case on the agenda is number 17874, Dara Aurelia, 39 Knight Lane, Kings Park. The location of the property, the north side of Knight Lane, 75 feet west of Knight Court. The property is owned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to decrease the minimum setback of a proposed 4-foot retaining wall from the side lot lines from 4 feet to 0.
Huh? Yeah. It's okay?
The applicant has appointed 2 people to serve on her behalf separately.
if they need be. I don't know who this person is.
Can you state your name, please?
Christina Bravin, I'm agent for the applicant, Morano Expediting.
Okay.
It's 4 Hamilton Court, Quorum.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening. We are requesting a variance to reduce the side yard setbacks from 4 feet to 0 feet for proposed 4-foot retaining wall. Prior to the installation of the pool, which they do have a permit for, it's number 171377. There's an existing retaining wall made of railroad ties. It's in disrepair. It's no longer functioning. Both abutting parcels have retaining walls along the back of their property, and they will require a new one. The proposal is to reconstruct the 4-foot retaining wall, holding a 5-foot setback off the rear property line, which is an additional 1-foot setback than the code requires. And due to the topography of the lot, it would be impossible to eliminate a retaining wall within 4 feet of the side property lines. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
All right,
I
thank
have
you.
photographs of the property if you need to see.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
The only question I have, it's going to be 4 feet from the rear, but it'll be 0 on the sides, correct?
5-foot setback off the rear.
5 off the
Yeah.
rear? Okay, thank you.
All right. Planning?
Just 2 comments for you, Mr. Chairman. I believe if you look at the photographs that are in the application folder, you'll see that all of the proposed retaining walls are inside the rear yard and side yard of the applicant, which is on a lower grade than the adjacent properties. Therefore, the retaining wall isn't going to impact the neighbors. It's the impact will only be kept on site to the applicant. Just one other thing, because of the proximity of the setback of the wall, the board may want to put some consideration into a possible easement agreement with the adjacent neighbor for maintenance of the wall, should there be a problem in the future, because it will be at a 0 setback.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No? Can I have a motion to close this application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case, number 17875, Kelly Gorgiulo, 90 Harvest Lane, Comac, the location of the property, the north side of Harvest Lane, 390 feet west of Shaker Ridge Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 50 feet to 42 feet for an existing 292 square foot deck with roof over.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. David Sepperson, 90 Harvest Lane, Comac, New York.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
David Sepperson. My wife, Kelly, is the one who filled out the application.
Oh,
Sepperson.
See the property?
yeah. Are you the
Yeah,
property
you might
owner,
as well.
sir?
I am.
It's a husband and wife. You have a copy of the title. Both of their names are on it.
Did she give you a power of attorney to act tonight, sir?
Yes, she did.
Could we have a copy of that?
Oh, I don't know if she didn't fill it. She just said I could go in her place. Because she's a school teacher, she couldn't make it, unfortunately.
Do we have the title?
Do we have
Fine,
the
right?
copy of the title?
A copy was submitted because it did change hands, so a copy was given. I do have a copy on email, but
Yeah.
I'd have to give it to, printed. I can show you.
Could you just state your name for the record, please?
I'm sorry. My name is Fran Dufresne,
Could you spell your last name?
Dufresne. 9 Blue Spruce Lane in Comac is my address. I filed as the applicant on behalf of Kelly Gargiulo when I filed the application with the Board of Appeals.
Steve?
I'd like to, if I could see the application, maybe?
I was going to print the deed out too, and I didn't.
All right,
Good. Mr. Sepperson, if, just to clarify it, if you could get back on the record and just basically affirm to the board that you are a co-owner of this property.
Yeah, I'm a co-owner with my wife Kelly. Her last name is Gargiulo. We bought the home over the summer, and the deck was already there. We were told there was a CO. Fortunately, there wasn't when we went through the process. So they were going to put the paperwork in for us, and now here we stand.
Okay, fine, thank you. Now, would you
problem.
like this lady speak on your behalf?
Yes, please.
Fine.
Thank you very much, everyone.
And you already gave your name and address?
I did.
so fine.
Yes. Sorry about the confusion. And I can provide a copy of the deed if you need one. So,
If you could submit that after tonight, just so we have a copy, that'd be
sure.
great.
That's
Thank
fine. So we're here tonight to ask permission to maintain an existing rear yard deck with a roof over it. The neighborhood is comprised of mostly high ranches. Many of them have this same deck in their backyard. The deck is approximately 21 by 15. The stairs behind the deck reduce the rear yard to a 42-foot setback instead of the required 50 feet. The deck has been there for approximately 20 years. As Mr. Sepperson stated, they did purchase the house over the summer, and there was some issue as to whether or not the deck had a CO, and it turned out it didn't. So as part of the sale of the property, the old owner was providing the CO for them, so we're here tonight to maintain the deck as it sits and has sat for more than 20 years.
Right.
Again, most of the houses in the neighborhood are high ranches with a similar deck or a similar rear yard setback.
Right.
So there will be no adverse impact on the neighborhood.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
No. Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard in this application? No. Have a motion to close this application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor? Aye. Motion carried.
If I
Thank
can
you.
ask one question before I leave, because if I don't, it's going to bug me. But Mr. Tanzi, are you related by any chance to a school teacher in Comac?
No.
Oh, okay. My son has a teacher, Mrs. Tanzi, and I said that has to be a relative.
Could be, but I don't think so.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The next case on the agenda, number 17876, Albert Morisi, 9 Quist Lane, Smithtown. The location of the property, the north side of Quist Lane, 419 feet east of Lake Avenue. The property is zoned R15. The applicant is requesting a special exception for temporary living quarters. Variances to increase the square footage of a temporary living quarters from 935 square feet to 1,000 square feet. Reduce the minimum front yard setback from 45 feet to 38 feet for a proposed 321 square foot first floor addition and 348 square foot second floor addition. Reduce the minimum rear yard from 60 feet to 31 feet for an existing 370 square foot deck. Reduce the distance from any lot line from 8 feet to 7 for a 295 square foot shed, and increase the side yard paving from 25 to 74%.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Albert Masseri. My address is 9 Quist Lane, Nesconset, New York, 11767.
Thank you. And you would like this gentleman to speak on your behalf?
Yes.
Fine.
Thank you.
Is this gentleman going to speak also? No? Okay.
No, just this one.
Could you
Yeah, good evening,
state
everyone.
your name, spell your last name, give the address for the record, please?
Dr. Russell Rasicki, architect, 150 North Delaware Avenue in Lindenhurst. The last name is Rosicki.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to correct for the record that the shed is actually 7.9 feet from the property line. It's the matter of about an inch on the left side yard. I know you mentioned 7 feet from the left side yard, but I'll correct it. The survey correctly shows 7.9 feet. So this is a high ranch home built on or about 1964. There is no adverse impact to the neighborhood with the proposed addition. I'll start with the addition first. The addition is proposed at the right side of the home if you're facing the front of the lot. You could not propose any additional square footage to the home at the rear due to the setback of 60 feet. Also, at the left side yard, 16 feet required. They have approximately 16.4. And at the front yard, it would be rather technically infeasible. So the addition is rather small, 321 square feet on the first floor, and I believe 348 on the second floor. It's just to expand living space that they already have. Kids live in the house with them, and so does the mother who needs special care. So the addition is respective of just adding space. There actually aren't even any bedrooms proposed for this addition. Moving on, well, with respect to the proposed addition, this home actually uniquely was as a part of a cul-de-sac at one point. So the property survey uniquely shows a radius at the front right of the property, if you look at the survey, and that's no longer there. That's all been planted. It's still owned by, I believe, the town of Smithtown. However, the whole property looks like a front yard, and if this addition were to be compared with where the front yard would continue, it would not have required a variance. So for the purposes of line of sight, the building does not appear like it's encroaching the front yard property line. Moving on to the rear yard deck, the owner had purchased this property with the deck already in place. I personally evaluated this deck to be built, and it's actually a very sound structure, and it would not require upgrades in order to be kept. It does meet today's code, and it is well built. And prior to this deck, actually, I found a survey dating back which showed a previous deck which was in place, similar to the previous applicant who mentioned that homes in this area, or at least high ranches, have decks leading off to the rear that require a rear yard setback. At the left side yard, there is also some pavement that extends from the driveway beyond. It also serves as a walk path to the backyard where the owner walks his mother through with the wheelchair through to the back door entry. So we are requesting to keep the pavement area there as well. Again, it was in place when the house was purchased. It's not like this owner had put it in place. Regarding the temporary living quarters, that is strictly for his mother who needs a special assistance. It can simply be modified to turn back into single family without in-law living downstairs. The mother would actually be situated downstairs only. It's not like there'd be any living quarters upstairs other than the main owner of the building, who's also the occupier with his family. The request is for 1,000 square feet. And currently, I believe it's approximately 679 square feet per the application. Okay, so I mentioned before that I don't believe the addition can be achieved by any other means. I don't feel that this, as the architect, addition is proposed as being substantial in nature. The addition we're proposing equates to less than 20% of an increase to the current floor area. There will be no adverse environmental impacts due to the increased addition. So I mentioned earlier that for the purposes of the cul-de-sac and the owner having purchased these items on this property as it was and requesting legalization for such items, that it was not self-created. And that's all I have to mention. Thank you.
Okay, fine. On your survey in that cul-de-sac area, you have an irregular wire fence to be removed?
That is correct. I brought photos with us today that actually demonstrate that it's a chicken wire fence. It was actually just to keep the animals from the neighbors, like, you know, when they let their dog out front or something from running onto their property. That has actually been removed a few weeks back before this hearing, yes.
All right, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No? Planning?
Mr. Chairman, the Planning Department prepared a planning advisory report, which the board has a copy of, recommending approval of the application.
Thank you. Is there anyone, excuse me, anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No? Can I have a motion to close this application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, number 17877, Louis and Christina Filippone, 19 Landing Meadow Road, Smithtown. The location of the property, the north side of Landing Meadow Road, 268 feet east of Valley Road. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum side yard from 24 feet to 20 feet, reduce total side yards from 60 feet to 58 feet for an existing 700 square foot deck. 701 square foot deck. Reduce the minimum side yard from 24 feet to 13 feet and total side yards from 60 feet to 51 feet for an existing oversized window well with steps.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Excuse me. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. I've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to Mr. Donadio. This house was recently constructed for the Filippones by Regency Homes. Frank Caridley's the builder. He's been building in Smithtown, as this board probably knows, for many, many years. In constructing the house, as this board also knows, when you have a basement, the requirement is to have escape windows. And Mr. Caridley overbuilds everything he does, so he made the escape area a little larger than what's normally done when you build those window wells. So the building department called it an oversized escape area, so to speak. And he also built the deck, and the deck exceeds the setback, interjects into the setback by 4 feet. It's a 60-foot total side yard requirement, and when you consider the other side yard, there is really only a 2-foot request, other than for the retaining wall, which is necessary in this particular situation because the property next door is higher. In doing this, he should have realized, but he didn't, that when you build an oversized safety, window safety window well, you're going to need a variance, and that's why we're here. The Filippones just moved into the house, I believe, about a month and a half ago. They have 4 young boys, and obviously they need to be sure that, God forbid, there's any type of catastrophe, and if any of the kids or the family is in the basement, they can get out. So we asked the board for its favorable consideration. We don't believe would have any kind of effect on the adjoining properties. As I said, the adjoining property where the small interjection into the side yard is higher, can't even see it. Whether the applicant could do something different, well, not at this point. We already built it, we did it. It really has no effect on anybody, and certainly it's kind of a safety feature that maybe is overbuilt, but again, better to be overbuilt than underbuilt. Whether the requested variance is substantial, not really. It's a 60-foot total side yard, and it really is de minimis when you think about 4 feet and where it is. Whether the proposed variance will have an effect on the environment, no, there's no additional living space. It's a deck, and it's an escape area. Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, yeah, we did it. We should have known better. Frank Caridley's been a builder for 30, 40 years in the town of Smithtown, and I guess he should have checked first, but it was all done in good faith so that there would be a safe house. So we asked the board for its favorable consideration. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions?
No.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No? Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No? Can you have a motion to close this application, please?
So moved.
Second. Moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is number 17878, 501 Smithtown LLC, 501 Middle Country Road, Smithtown, the location of the property, the north side of Middle Country Road, 339 feet east of Montclair Avenue. The property is zoned WSI. The applicant is requesting a variance to increase the number of wall and eave signs from a maximum of 1 to 4.
Right.
If this gentleman could just identify. Could you identify yourself on the record for us, sir?
Good evening. My name is Carmine Grasso from Cataldo Grasso Architects, offices at 14 Carl Avenue in Smithtown. I've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing, the certified mail receipts, and the power of attorney. I'm here to represent my client. It's 501 Smithtown LLC. They are Lincoln of Smithtown. They are requesting variance to increase the number of wall signs on their building from 1 to 4. Currently, there are 3 existing wall signs on the building. Those were approved by this board on May 13th of 2015. It was case number 17329. The new proposed sign that we're going to be installing, or hopefully installing, is a 15-square-foot sign that's located above the service drive-up doors. The sign would simply say service. It would be similar to the wall sign on the building that currently exists that says Smithtown. It's going to be internally illuminated. My client was advised by Lincoln, once they had done the work on the building, they had built the addition on the building. After the construction, he was advised by Lincoln that they would need to have this sign on the building, which he didn't realize previously, or we would have proposed it at our previous BZA hearing. That's a really simple application, I believe, a small sign, 15 square feet. So in regard to the area variance considerations, whether an undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood, we feel no. It's, the proposed sign is similar to the signs that are above service areas on all the other car dealerships, or most of the other car dealerships in the area. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method, other method, other than a variance, no. The variance is required for the number of signs, and this sign is necessary to direct customers to the service drive-up area, and it is required by the Lincoln brand. Whether the requested variance is substantial, we don't feel it is. It's again, it's a small sign, 15 square feet, about 1.5 by 9.5. Whether the proposed variance would have an adverse impact on the physical environment or conditions of the neighborhood, again, we feel no. The sign's going to be in line with what's on other car dealerships. and none of them are impacting the neighborhood. And finally, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. We don't feel it was self-created because the service sign is a requirement of the Lincoln brand, so my client has to put it on the building. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
All right, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
No. Planning?
No, thank you.
Does anyone in the audience have any excuse me, have any questions on this application? No? May I have a motion to close this application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Already moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is number 17879, Publishing Nerds, LLC, 27-29 East Main Street, Smithtown. The location of the property, the north side of Main Street, 500 feet west of Landing Avenue. The property is Zone CB. The applicant is requesting an interpretation of the zoning code for a commercial public recreation facility.
Familiar with that.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Brian Weber, Weber Law Group, 290 Broad Hollow Road, Melville, New York, for the applicant. With me is Justin Williams, who's a partner in the Puzzle Break, and Frank Filiciotto, who's our professional traffic engineer from Stonefield Engineering. Mr. Filiciotto is here because we have some parking-related testimony which is not necessarily germane to the interpretation, but the information is available if the board has questions about parking, as well as Mr. Filiciotto to answer questions. But I have some of that testimony in my presentation. We are seeking a determination by the zoning board that Puzzle Break can be interpreted as a game center under the Smithtown Town Code. I have some exhibits which I'm going to hand up to the board.
Thank you.
So as I sometimes like to do, Exhibit A is the definition of a game center, which is a room, hall, or building or portion thereof which contains 5 or more pinball machines, electronic video screen games, foosball games, air hockey games, or any other games or machines determined by the Board of Zoning Appeals to be similar, for the use of which fees are paid directly into the machines or to an operator. So we are here because Puzzle Break is, as a game center, is in a room, hall, or building. It is a game similar to those that are listed above, which we seek your determination of, and the use of which our fees are paid directly into the machine, which is not the case here, or to an operator, which is the case. We meet each one of these elements, as I'll explain. And there is a planning department memorandum which agrees with our request for the interpretation, which I received a copy of today, that this use can be determined as a game center. So, in requesting the determination, Puzzle Break is a game located inside a building which fees are paid to an operator. So what kind of game is Puzzle Break? Puzzle Break is a game of clues, riddles, and puzzles where players need to answer questions and solve puzzles to win the game. Puzzle Break is enjoyed by children, adults, groups, couples, and anyone who wants a game of real thinking and interaction and doesn't want the isolation of a video game or to stare at a screen for hours. Basically, Puzzle Break is today's game center. It's the modern version of a game center. As traditional game centers, arcades, go away, this is the type of game that people, when they want to have team building and family time, will go to to get outside of their houses and be together. Puzzle Break brings together friends, family, and coworkers to use brains and teamwork to solve puzzle games. So who loves Puzzle Break? The Girl Scouts. Puzzle Break is an approved Girl Scout organization, and there is actually an official Puzzle Break Girl Scout badge that Girl Scout troops earn for using teamwork to successfully complete a Puzzle Break game. More groups who love Puzzle Break. The Syosset, Oyster Bay, Merrick, Belmore, Seaford, Jericho, Hicksville, Westbury, Cold Spring Harbor, and Glen Cove school districts, all of whom bring middle school and high school students to the Puzzle Break location in Syosset for class trips. Who else loves Puzzle Break? Mario's Pizza in Syosset, Jay's Market in Syosset, Hunky's Pizza in Plainview, and the local Carvels and ShopRites. Why? Because this facility does not serve food on its own. When it brings in children's birthday parties, it caters from all the local businesses. So it gets all of its food, beverages, and supplies all from local businesses. More businesses who love Puzzle Break. Local restaurants, Chris and Tony's Italian Restaurant in Syosset and Mara's Homemade Kitchen in Syosset, which are both popular destinations for couples and groups after they leave the Puzzle Break in Syosset. The guys at Puzzle Break basically act as local tour guides. Their Syosset location gets daily calls from people coming to play the puzzle games who want to know where to go out for dinner after they play. This Main Street Smithtown location will benefit restaurant shops, suppliers, and other businesses in the area from who either Puzzle Break will directly purchase or will benefit by being a destination either before or after for families, couples, and groups finishing playing the Puzzle Break game. The Smithtown Center for Performing Arts could also benefit, as Puzzle Break can serve as a feeder activity before the theater performance. So I just want to briefly now explain to you and show you what actually a Puzzle Break game is, so you can get an understanding about how it operates. So in your exhibits, you have pictures of the Puzzle Break location in Syosset. This one in Smithtown is proposed to be the only one in the town, the only one in Suffolk County. The pictures that you show game rooms, and that's what the actual use is. You go into a game room, like I said, classes, couples, groups, to solve puzzles. The clues are throughout the room. So if you look at the pictures that I provided, you see a table and you see other accoutrements throughout the room. What you might notice also are locked boxes. The way this one would work, this particular one, so when you enter the room, you're told that the clues are throughout the room. The idea is you have an hour. You buy a ticket with a group of people, and you go in and you have 1 hour, and you're in a room. And you have to solve the puzzle and the game to get out of the room. Now, there's no physical restraints. It's not dark. You can see from the pictures, it's not scary. It's not loud. It's all about using logic and thinking and abstract thinking to solve the puzzles, to answer the questions, and then basically leave the room. And the floor plan, which I have for you at Exhibit C, shows that some rooms are single rooms and some rooms you move between one room and another. But again, there's no physical exertion. There's nothing more than picking items up and opening doors. So what happens is, for this particular, in this particular game, these are one of the clues. This will be on the wall. And you're told that these symbols mean something. So what you might see is this up on one side of the wall, and you might have this box on the other side of the wall. And you start looking, and you see these symbols. Well, what somebody would do, if they were smart, not me, because I couldn't figure it out, but you're looking for clues. This symbol here is on the back of the lock. That symbol is found here. You then have to think that you start where it says start. That part I can figure out. The directions which you go to get from here to here, up, left, down, right, those are the directions you turn the lock to unlock the box to get the clue for the game. So that's an example of how it works. So you basically look at this, you say, okay, this symbol's here, that symbol's on the lock, this must be the way we unlock that box. Then you have to think again, you're trying to figure out how to get to this symbol, and then you figure out, okay, well, this is easy, I got down here, but then you have to think that direction, and you make the correlation to the lock, and that's how you unlock the box. In that box is your next clue. It's fun, right? So like I said, you buy tickets from the operator. That's the fees to the operator part. Each game is an hour. You have an hour to solve the puzzle. By purchasing tickets in advance for a select time, the facility is never overcrowded. There's never a wait. So we asked Stonefield Engineering to conduct a parking study at the Syosset location, because this is a downtown location here in Smithtown. And because the Syosset Puzzle Break is located in a multi-tenant building, Stonefield asked the patrons of Puzzle Break to fill out surveys about how they traveled to the location, where they parked, and how many people were in their car. The maximum number of cars parked at the Syosset location for Puzzle Break was 3. Each car had an average of 3.8 people in it. These were groups of adults that came for a night out, either before or after they had dinner. 3 groups of 4 people were in the Puzzle Break. It was the survey was done on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, peak times. And the Syosset Puzzle Break has 4 employees at peak time to help with, they serve as game masters and to help with answering questions. A lot of the adults don't want help. A lot of the children's groups, the schools do need it. The games are actually accessible up to 7 years old. So when adults come, they're coming in groups of almost 4 per car, and they're there for an hour. Like I said, there's no physical confinement. The doors to the rooms are not locked. There's no physical activity. You're either in a 1-room game or a 2-room game, and the most activity you have to do is move from one room to the other. So it really is a game. There's no loud music, as I said, and no scary images. So is this your traditional game center with electronic games and foosball tables? It's definitely not. But the Puzzle Break game use can clearly be interpreted as a game center, which is what we're asking you to do and what the planning department agrees with, because it satisfies the elements of a game center. As I stated earlier in my testimony, the traditional arcade is being replaced by these real games like Puzzle Break. If people want to play video games, they stay home. They have 70-inch TVs on their screen, and they have a better experience at home than they do in any arcade. The arcades are being replaced by games to spend time with family and friends and use intellect and skill and to interact with each other instead of a screen. That's what this Puzzle Break game is. So that's our presentation. Certainly we ask the board to agree with the planning department and interpret us as a game center. This wouldn't be our last stop in approval for the town. A game center is a special exception use that must be approved by the town board. The issue with the building department's interpretation is they interpreted us as a commercial recreation use. That's not permitted in the zoning district where this building is, so we wouldn't be able to do the use. But I think that it's pretty clear we can, with your interpretation, be considered a game center, and we then must seek approval as a special exception from the town board.
Okay. Looking at the floor plan that you provided us, rooms 1, 2, and 3, those are double rooms?
Yes.
So if you come in and you book room 1, you're booking room 1A with it?
So you book by particular game. If you look at the pictures, the last pictures, you see Escape from 20,000 Leagues. That's a game you can book. So that game might be a 1-room game or a 2-room games. So the 3 games they have now, which I gave you pictures of, which is Escape from 20,000 Leagues, this Grim Escape, and then also the new one, which is the Escape, the Midnight Carnival, you're either booking a 1-room game or a 2-room game, and it depends on the type of game that you book. But those are the only games that they have going on at any one time.
All right. What's the maximum number of people you put into the rooms?
So it's interesting. I mean, you can have, probably if you had all games going at one time, you'd probably have 30 people there. But during peak time, which was observed over a weekend, there was 12.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. That party room, how many does that party room hold?
So the party room would be for a child's birthday. That's really what that, it's either for a child's birthday or team building. So that's really what it's for. So it's, it's only 400 square feet. So it's probably, 10 or 20 at the most.
I just wanted to point out that I actually participated in an escape room this past weekend at a different one, but with my 4 children and 2 of their friends, all of which were under 16 years old. And while I do agree with you that it does meet the definition of game center, intellect and skill was nowhere to be found in our room.
Which is why I've never actually had the courage to try one.
You didn't win anything. Good. Do we really want to encourage thinking?
Okay, moving on. Planning, any questions?
No additional comments other than the memo that was submitted to the board.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close this application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the time. So we go on the decision calendar. Will that be decided this evening?
I'm sorry?
Now the hearing is closed. Will that be decided this evening?
Will it be decided?
Will it be decided? Will the matter be decided tonight?
We'll talk about it, yeah.
Okay. I know we have the secret determination and Suffolk County Planning Commission. So-
Right, I see, that's what I was looking for, they're both done.
Yes, thank you.
The next case on the agenda is number 17880, Giovanni Stanco, 24 Heights Road, Delonga. The location of the property, the northwest corner of Brewster Drive and Heights Road. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting variances to increase the square footage of an attached garage from 750 square feet to 1,139 square feet for an existing 489 square foot garage addition. Decrease the minimum distance from the side lot line from 1 foot to 0 for existing paving.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Could you state your name, spell your last name for the record, please?
Tina Paris, Paris.
And your address, Tina?
I'm sorry, 490 Wheeler Road, Hauppauge, New York,
Thank you.
11788.
No, she submitted.
Sorry, ma'am, are you an attorney?
No, I'm the architect.
Okay, could we
You have
just
the
have
applicant?
the
You want
applicant
the-
come up?
Oh, absolutely.
And just let us know on the record that you're acting as agent tonight for this hearing?
Yes.
I thought she submitted something.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Do you want his information?
Yes, I need,
Please, John.
could you state your name and address, please?
Giovanni Stanco, Stanco, 24 Heights Road, Fort Salonga, New York, 11768.
And you would like this young lady to speak on your behalf?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. All right, Tina.
Sorry about that, guys. All right, good evening. So we're here for two reasons. We have two variances that we're looking for consideration. So the first one is to increase the allowable attached garage by 400 and, where is it? 489 square feet. This is a built prior, so it's a one-car, one-story garage that's been attached to the house. To make the total attached garage to be 1,139 square feet. He currently has 750 square feet of an attached garage, so he's adding one more space for a one-car garage. And the second consideration is, which was pre-existing prior to them purchasing the building, which is the encroachment of the side yard into the lot line. Currently, the paving goes up to the lot line, which adjoins the paving to their neighbor. So they technically both share the curb cut exiting the property. Even though the curb cut is on Mr. Stanko's property, the neighbor also, they seem to have somehow worked it out so they share that one access onto the road, onto Heights Road through that one driveway. This was a pre-existing condition. Through the advent of us filing this, this came to light that this is also a condition that Mr. Stanko chose to maintain it rather than trying to close it up for the interest of the neighbor, because she has apparently a disabled son, and apparently this access is easier for her to access her house, especially in inclement weather. So that's one of the reasons why we're asking to maintain the existing condition.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
Planning?
No, thank you.
No. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard in this application? No. Can I have a motion to close this application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
The next case on the agenda is number 17881, Jenny Spignolo, 78 Hilltop Drive, Kings Park. Location of the property, the west side of Locust Drive, Hilltop Drive, 300 feet south of Riviera Dock Road. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum lot area from 10,000 square feet to 8,000 square feet. Increase the maximum gross LWRP floor area from 25% to 28%.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. I've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to Mr. Donadio. The subject property is 80 by 100, and I'd like to point out at the beginning that this board granted a variance to Don Mangona about 3 houses south of where the subject property is. I'd like to submit to you a same variance, same size property, 80 by 100, and that was granted about a little less than, I think, about a year ago. So the first thing I want to hand up, Jordan, is a coastal consistency recommendation on Don Mangona's house. Just bring it to the chairman, please.
Thank you.
The next thing we would like to submit is the variance application. Well, first I'll submit a map to you, and it'll show you the 2 locations, the current subject property location and the other one, which was Don Mangona's CCI design and build. It has the variance number and the date of the variance. Just hand them up. So, what happened here? Well, many years ago, as some of us know, San Remo was like a summer community. And Grandpa Leota's father, I guess great-grandpa, bought some property in San Remo on Locust Drive. The initial house, prior to this property being purchased, you can look at a CO, and I'll hand that up, was built around the 50s, and here it is. I'm going to show you a property card, which is going to be handed up to you. And that property card is for the existing house, which Grandma Leota lives there, and the property is on 60 by 100. If you look at the card, you'll see that the lots are 3 lots, each 20-foot wide lots, totaling 60 feet. So in that CO property card, what does it tell us? It tells us that a CO was issued for that house on a 60-foot parcel. Why do I even talk about that? Because right next door is the property that is owned by Grandma Leota and some other relatives. So Grandma said to Jenny, how would you like this piece of property to build a house on? And of course she said yes, and they're engaged. That's Jenny, and where is Russell? Right here. Russell is soon to be a Suffolk County cop, and Jenny is an emergency room nurse in the city. So they want to build their dream home. And again, the reason why I am saying this is because Grandma's house had nothing to do with this 80-foot lot. The CO was granted on 60 feet, and that was it. Grandma and I think the aunt bought the other parcel later on. Now she wants to give it to her granddaughter, and which of course many people hand down properties and hold properties in the hopes that their family will come together and build a house. So that's the plan. The request from 10,000 to 8,000 square feet, we believe is minimal, especially since this board granted it about a year ago to Don Mangona, CCI Design and Build for the exact same size property, just a little bit south, about probably less than 300 feet from where this subject property is. We're also asking for a slight increase in the FAR from 25% to 28%. Again, it's de minimis when you consider the size of the property. And by the way, we're not asking for any side yard variances, rear yard variances, or front yard variances. So the only variance that we need is the size of the parcel and the LWRP, which I believe we're a little bit over, but nothing spectacular, in order to build the house that these young folks would like to build. So we asked the board for its favorable consideration. I'm going to submit up the copy of the letter granting Don Mangona the variance. I Wish the board would take into consideration that it will not have an adverse effect on nearby properties. As you know, San Remo is multifaceted with 40-foot lots, 60-foot lots, 100-foot lots, and 80-foot lots. So it's not something that our piece is going to stick out like a sore thumb, especially since there's one right down the block that's going to be built very soon. Whether the requested variance is substantial, not really. It's a 10% reduction. The property is flat, it's level, it has no hills, there's no other environmental issues, so it's basically a straightforward project. Whether it would have an adverse effect on the environment, no, I just said there's no water problems. Depth of groundwater is more than sufficient. As you know, properties that come, Locust is one of the streets that runs into Riviera where the water is, so it goes up a hill. So there really is no issues with respect to water and/or drainage. Whether the whether the difficulty was self-created. We didn't build a house yet. We're asking this board for its favorable consideration. Again, we'd like to have people, newcomers, and especially young people in our community, so that they can populate the town of Smithtown with new blood. We see so much of our young folks moving away because they can't afford to pay the price of the cost of property. These young folks are lucky because grandma's given them the property. So we ask the board for its favorable consideration. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. And Jenny and Jordan are here, and Jenny's mom is here also. She's in the, wherever she is, in the back.
All right, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
No? Any?
No comments.
No? Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard in this application? Come on up, please. Certainly, you'll pull it right down. Oh, you can, if it's easy to take it out and just use it,
Is that okay?
that's fine. Could you state your name and give the address for the record, please?
My name is Janice Slot. You like my address?
Yes, please.
75 Magnolia Drive, Kings Park, New York. I have a statement I'd like to read.
Oh, I'm sorry, could you spell your last name?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's S-L-O-T-T.
Thank you.
I just want to read this statement, if you don't mind. Building of a structure on the vacant piece of land for 47-plus years that we are here and aware of is causing zoning restrictions to environmental conditions. The lots involved are too small, and building a structure on a piece of property, reducing the size of the required 10,000 square feet by 2,000 square feet would be overpowering, causing blockage of the sun, dust, noise, odor, and visual intrusions on peace and privacy. Digging for the structure on the said property may cause possible unnecessary flooding. We moved to Smithtown because we wanted to live in a suburban area where houses are not close together or on top of each other like Queens, New York. Therefore, we are asking that this variance not be approved.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Come on up, please. Again, state your name, spell your last name, and give the address for the record, please.
Theodore Sandomenico, Sandomenico. I live at 68 Locust Drive, Kings Park. I'd like to speak out in favor of this variance. There are actually 3 pieces of property on the block that are less than 10,000 square feet. As a matter of fact, I live 2 houses away from this parcel, and there's another parcel in between that's only less than 60 feet wide. So I don't believe this will affect the character of the neighborhood at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let me just see if there's anybody else, Mr. Tramarko. Is there anybody else like to be heard in this application? No? Okay, Mr. Tramarko.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to point out, and I don't know if I was clear, I'm sure it was my fault, the side yards of the subject property are going to be the side yards that are required by the town zoning code for an R10 district. So from the point of view of that house being, the new house being any closer to the lady's house or grandma's house, it's not. It's going to conform to the zoning. So the only thing that's different is the lot is smaller, but not that much smaller. Side yards, rear yard, front yards, all going to be conforming to zoning. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Can I have a motion to close this application, please?
So moved.
Second. Moved and second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
He's an LWRP, huh?
No. No. You all right, Rick? Okay. We'll go to the adjourned hearings now.
Yes. The next case is number 17743, GDF Realty LLC, 762 Southern Boulevard, Smithtown. The location of the property, the west side of Southern Boulevard, 100 feet north of Smithtown Bypass. The property is zoned WSI. The applicant is requesting a modification of a special exception for a car wash in the WSI zoning district for site work. Variances to reduce the landscaped area of the lot from 8% to 1%, reduce the front yard setback from 50 feet to 38 feet, reduce the minimum parking setback from the north side of the property line from 6 feet to 0, increase the number of wall signs from 1 to 2, permit a wall sign not to face a public street, increase the number of awning signs from 1 to 2, and permit an awning sign not to face a public street.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tramarko. I represent the applicant. I think Carmine Grasso submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to Mr. Donadio. I guess the board will remember, maybe it won't. We came before this board a few years ago with an application. Then Mr. Fleischer decided to revamp the whole setup at the car wash, which I'm sure you're familiar with, is on Southern Boulevard, just about a couple of hundred feet north of Route 347. Don's Car Wash started many, many years ago. It was part of the gas station that's in front of Mr. Fleischer's car wash. So anyway, now they've changed the configuration of the setup, and they're going to come in from Southern Boulevard, but next door to the entranceway of King O'Rourke's got a side entrance into their property. And that's right next door is where we're going to come in and queue our cars for the car wash. One of the concerns that the board had was, you know, a traffic situation, whether there's enough queuing, whether the setup for going in and coming out is conducive to good flow. And I think somebody on the board or the planning department recommended that we do a traffic study. So here we are. We have a traffic expert from VHB, and I keep forgetting his name. No, I'm only kidding. His name is Patrick Lenahan, and I'm going to ask him just to very briefly indicate what his findings are. Thank you.
Vince?
Good evening. Could you state your name for the record, spell your last name, and give your address, please?
Yes, Patrick Lenahan, Lenihan, VHB Engineering, 100 Motor Parkway, Hopper.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairperson Benz, members of the board. My name is Pat Lenahan. I'm the Director of Transportation at VHB's Hop Hog office. We were brought onto the project team to perform a traffic study, a traffic assessment for the Don's Car Wash application, and I'll try to be brief, but I do have some significant amount of information to cover that I'd like to share with the board. Of course, the first part of that is looking at the existing condition, and we were delayed a little bit because of the state's reconstruction in their Phase 3 on 347 on the bypass, and then subsequently, because a car wash is subject, the customer activity is so subject to weather conditions. You can have a certain, a beautiful clear day and have very little activity, but then if you have a beautiful clear day that's 3 or 4 days after a heavy snowstorm where everybody's car is covered with salt, you'll see the car wash pick up a little bit. So for this project, we actually wound up visiting the site for observations 4 different times. And of course, the heaviest customer activity we found was just this past weekend because of the snow the week previous. It stayed very cold. The salt stayed on the road. Folks' cars got very dirty. And then Saturday we hit 50 degrees and everybody wanted their car washed. So I just want to talk about the existing site conditions and traffic conditions that we saw there. And then I'll talk a little bit about what's proposed and how we think it will actually help the situation. Can the board see the aerial, or you want me to come closer?
I'm fine.
We're good?
Yeah.
Okay. So the existing car wash is on Southern Boulevard, of course. 2 driveways. What happens now is the entering vehicles queue up along the south property line in 2 lines. So they get vacuumed and they do the mats here, and then they go in, they make a right turn, they come through the portal, and they exit into this finishing area right here. So opposite of what we saw on the previous days, what we saw on Saturday was these queuing lanes can handle from single file out here and then 2 abreast, about 16 vehicles. Before they start, a couple of things happen. Because they're too wide, when they get too close to Southern Boulevard, they start to block the exit. And I have some photographs. I have some extra copies of my report. Does the board have the report?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. There's some photographs appended to the back of the report, 6 photographs that do as good a job as I could of describing what I'm talking about. So what happens is when we get really busy, we have 2 lines of cars here, and the finishing area is also full of cars, and those cars are all facing southbound. So they are trying, after they're completely dried and finished, to exit this driveway, where they encounter 2 rows of queued vehicles that back up sometimes all the way to Smithtown Boulevard. We have another situation where the queue southbound on Smithtown Boulevard at the traffic light sometimes backs up across that driveway, which now, as you know, is used as an entrance. And every once in a while, not very often, comes up to this driveway. So we have a situation going on the site, and then we have a situation that rears its head when it's very busy of folks coming northbound on Southern Boulevard that want to make a left into the site that have trouble because it's queued up and blocked. Okay? So when we talk about the Carmine Grasso's proposed site plan, the major element of that renovation or revision, if you want to call it, is moving these queuing lanes to the north side of the building. So they move to the north side of the building where we can stack the vehicles 3 wide. We plan to establish a one-way entry driveway up here. The existing driveway down at the south would become one-way exiting. So the problem with those people trying to make a left in across that queue gets eliminated. The internal problem of these folks who are finished trying to get out of the driveway, encountering those 2 lines of queued vehicles, is also eliminated. We have much more additional space and flexibility for the finishing operation, because if you go there when it's busy, it's very hectic. Sometimes when I was there Saturday, the owner was actually trying to direct traffic at his driveway and try to get people in and out. So the location of the new queuing lanes, if you look at the plan, we're stacking vehicles 3 wide. So I believe we show 18 vehicles on that plan. We can also put another 2 or 3 between the end of that queue and the entrance portal as they come around the corner. And because it's a one-way driveway, we could actually fit 3 more than Carmine showed, for a total of about 23 vehicles before that queue lane would actually fill up. So we're increasing the queuing space by about 50%. So the vehicle that would show up on Southern Boulevard to get their car washed when it's extremely busy, that might have a difficult time entering the site because sometimes this queue does reach the road, we could accommodate 50% more of them at the north end of the driveway. So in sum total, the renovations that are proposed are really going to address this condition and make the site operate much better than it does now when it's very busy. When it's not busy, it operates pretty well. So that's my conclusion and my recommendations, and I'll take any questions you might have.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
You said you're going to have the northernmost entrance be one way in.
Correct.
Southernmost one way out.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed there's a 3rd curb cut.
There is, and I, in my head, gave some thought to whether that should be retained. And in the end, I think we should retain it. There are a couple of bays on the building where they do detail work towards the west end of the building, and that's one way for those folks to get to those bays without encountering that whole line of southbound facing vehicles trying to exit to the south driveway. And secondly, there is a class of customer that the owner serves that does leave the portal and drive away essentially with a wet car. They don't go through the finishing process, and that finishing area can become so busy it will allow those folks to leave without having to navigate through that.
One of the things that I notice, and I don't know if you've gone over it with planning or not, or they even considered it, one, it creates a much safer situation not having that 3rd curb cut, as you know, and also gives you the ability to provide some additional landscaping and get above that 1%. I don't know if that was a consideration or not. But
well, in general, you're correct. You know, fewer driveways from a traffic perspective is better. That driveway, from going out there and observing the operation, it isn't used that much, and will be continue to not use that much. But if we do eliminate it, we're going to have to make one of the other driveways 2-way.
Well, I would, play devil's advocate and say if it's not used too much, then it's probably not necessary.
Well, there's only two detailing bays on the west end of the building, and when the employees show up, what have you. If we eliminated that, we would have to either make the northern, let people come in the southern driveway, and we're setting up one of the situations, again, that I really want to avoid.
Is there cross-access?
It's open to the gas station. There's cross-access to the gas station to the south.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
On the old drawing, you had vacuuming stations. Where are they on the new drawing?
I think I might have to hand that off to Carmine.
My name is Carmine Grasso from Cataldo Grasso Architects. The vacuuming stations, there was two alternatives that we were thinking of for where they could be located. One would be right at when you see the head of the line, the queuing line, right before you drive into the building. We would either have the vacuum stations there, but we were having discussions with Mr. Fleischer, who's the owner of the car wash, and we considered also the possibility of putting the vacuum stations at the end of the line, where when the cars come out of the car wash and are in the finishing area where they're drying the cars, we feel that would also be a good plan that would help eliminate some of the holdup of the cars getting into the car wash. That's an operational situation where either Mr. Fleischer or he has his operational person here that can also talk on that if you need.
All right. The three-car queuing. How does that work? I mean, I guess that's also controlled by the car wash staff who comes to...
Yeah, you know what, I think anything with the operations of how that work would best be handled by you, I would assume, right?
You want to come up? Sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Could you state your name, spell your last name, give the address for the record, please?
Daniel Bell, B-E-L-L. Evening.
Good evening.
So your questions about how we manage both our customers and our employees. With the 3-lane stacking, we have what we call service advisors, greeting our customers to try and offer the services that we offer at the car wash. Once that's done, we then queue them onto the single line where they'll merge into the single lane tunnel. Okay. As far as the vacuuming, we're going to do for the most part, what we call a flex serve business model, where the vacuuming will be done at the exit of the car wash. This increases our throughput by us not having to delay if there's a really dirty car, someone comes in, their kids, the back, they want the vacuumed of the trunk. So by moving them to the exit end of it will increase our throughput to decrease the chances of us backing up onto the street.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
No.
No.
No. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Planning, do you have any questions?
Not at this time, thank you.
No? Okay.
I'm just going to ask Carmine to comment on the signage that we're requesting.
Thank you. All right, so in our application, we're proposing a wall and awning sign facing Southern Boulevard, which are permitted per code. So those two signs, they would be facing facing east on the west, on the east side of the building, facing Southern Boulevard. Those are permitted by code. The variances that were going to be required are for the 2 additional signs that we were going to have on the south side of the building, which would face the parking finishing area, and also Route 347, which is beyond the gas station. Those signs are a 40 square foot wall sign and a 20 square foot awning sign. We had been to the board previously, as you know, quite a few years ago for signage. And at that time, the board had approved with conditions for us to have the awning signs and the wall signs, which are actually currently there right now, in a little different configuration than what we're showing on this plan. But the conditions of that approval were that the existing signs have lettering on the slope of the awning signs. That was going to have to be removed, and we would just have lettering on the flap, which is what we're proposing now. So we're basically trying to keep it in line with what the board had approved conditionally previously. There were a couple of other variances on that request that I just wanted to touch on. One of them was reducing the required front yard setback from 50 feet to 38.9 feet. This wasn't required previously when we had been to the board before, but now it's required due to the taking of property from the state DOT for the turning lane in front of that starts in front of the property. So there's actually no change to the building. It's just that the property line got moved in. So in doing that, we needed to go for that variance. We had talked about the reduction of the parking setback on the north side of the building from 6 feet to 0 feet to provide the new driveway. In that case, we're doing pretty much the same thing that's happening on the property adjacent to the north for King O'Rourke, where their parking goes right to the property line as well. And then the other variance which Mr. Tanzi touched on before was the reducing the landscaped area from 8% to 1.9%. Again, that's we would still be maintaining the 2 curb cuts towards the south that were there before, obviously adjusted due to the taking of property from the state, but also due to the taking of the property from the state, most of the landscaping that was there winds up getting eliminated. If you have any questions regarding these, I'd be happy to answer.
You have any questions? No. Blaze?
No questions at this time?
No? Okay.
So with respect to the criteria, I think the last one is kind of important, was the difficulty self-created with the setbacks. Obviously, the state created the difficulty by taking a portion of the property for a turning lane. With respect to the signs facing south, it's important to my client that get some visibility from 347. And the way those south-facing signs are set up are really not intrusive on anyone. Certainly the gas station in front of it doesn't have any, would not have any issue. I don't think King O'Rourke has any issue. And it is necessary to have, try to have some visibility from 347. So we asked the board for its favorable consideration. Again, Alan Fleischer is here. If you have any questions relative that he could answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Planning?
Just a few comments, Mr. Chairman. I know it's been a rather long time since the last public hearing, so even I have forgotten some of the details because I haven't looked at the file recently. But the planning department did prepare a planning advisory report for the last public hearing that was held for this application. And we talked about a variety of site conditions and made some recommendations regarding landscaping and setbacks, driveway curb cuts, so forth and so on, which the PAR is in the file, which is with the other files in the box. I just want to mention that we did receive the traffic study yesterday afternoon from Mr. Grasso. So we haven't had an opportunity to sit down and read it and digest it and analyze it to come up with a recommendation or a suggestion regarding the contents of the study. We haven't had an opportunity to distribute it to the other people in the town, the traffic director, the assistant director in the environmental department, so that they can look at it and see if it's going to generate any comments or recommendations from them. So at this time, we don't really have any comments or recommendations other than what we originally put in the planning advisory report, But we would say to the board that we would like an opportunity to take a look at this report, see what it has to say, and then be able to offer comments to the board.
All right, thank you. All right, Mr. Tramonko?
Well, then I assume you will adjourn the public hearing. I don't want to close, I hope you won't close the hearing, because we may want to comment on what planning, traffic, and all the other departments have to say.
All right. How long do you think it'll take?
Can't really speak for the other departments, so I would say 2 meetings out, maybe.
Yeah, at least.
We just adjourned one to the 27th, right?
Let me see who's in this too.
Hmm? March 13th?
I'm sorry?
March 13th?
It's okay with me, is it? Chairman, would you consider the meeting before that?
I'm backlogged on the 27th and the 13th.
Okay, well, it is what it is then, March
Yeah.
13th?
March 13th.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. So the meeting has been adjourned to March 13th.
You have this. Oh, thank you. You don't want this anymore? No.
I'm good. The what? Throw it out.
Adrian.
The next case on the agenda, number 17864, Belu and Jolene Matthew, 54 Miller, I'm sorry. The location of the property is the southwest corner of Hill Lane and Lindron Avenue in Smithtown. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the front yard setback on Lindron Avenue from 40 feet to 35 feet for an existing 230-square-foot deck. Permit an existing fence and wall combination greater than 4 feet in the required front yard to 9 feet for the fencing on top of the retaining wall.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Can I have your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Dr. Bilu Matthew, and I'm sorry, the
Address.
the address is concerning 22 Hill Lane in Smithtown, New York.
Thank you. And you would like this young lady to speak on your behalf?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Good
Again,
evening.
could you state your name,
Yes.
spell your last name, and give your address for the record, please?
Yes, Sharon O'Brien, 54 Miller Place, Middle Island Road, Mount Sinai, New York. My last name spelling is capital O, capital B, R-I-E-N.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board.
If you want to lower that.
Okay, I am here as agent for Mr. Matthews. The subject premises is at 22 Hill Lane in Smithtown, which is a corner property. We are before you this evening seeking permission to maintain a multi-level rear deck requiring a minimum relief of only 5 feet and an existing retaining wall running along Linden Avenue. Looking at the survey, the board can see that the only place the fence is on top of the retaining wall is where the front fence crosses over the retaining wall towards Linden Avenue. The retaining wall starting in front of the fence is at a height of 29.5 inches and runs gradually along Linden Avenue to a maximum height of 59.5 inches at the northwesterly corner of the property. Mr. Matthew and his family purchased their home in 2009 with these existing situations. So needless to say, they were not self-created. Over the years, there has been no adverse effect on the environment or on the neighborhood. And if the board has any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, I'd just like to point out for the record that the fence, the retaining wall and fence combination in the rear, in the yard actually impacts this property, not any others, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Planning?
That would have been my comment, so no comments.
No comment? So I don't think we're going to hear anything else, so can I have a motion to close this application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you and good night.
Good night. And that concludes the meeting tonight.